Hi, this is Dr. Kimberley Linert, author of Visualizing Happiness in Every Area of Your Life and host of this podcast, Incredible Life Creator. And today I have with me Gane. Hey, Guy.
Hi, how are you?
I am good. So
That's great.
excited to get into this conversation with you because you have had what some people have pivots in their lives, but you've had some really interesting pivots. So
Yeah.
I'm going to read your short bio just so people get an idea of who you are.
Okay. Okay.
So, entering the financial world at the age of 20, Guy Gane went on to become one of the foremost financial advisors in the United States. As a stockbroker and registered investment advisor, owning his own firm and with multiple offices nationwide, Guy managed investment portfolios for thousands of clients and many millions of dollars. In 2008, he was accused of money laundering and mail fraud, and despite his vehement denials, as well as passing multiple polygraph tests, Guy, nearly 4 years later, was sentenced to prison for 13 years, of which he eventually served 9. Through personal guidance and intelligence gleaned only from experience, Guy, upon his release in 2020, formed the company Gain Wisdom. As one of the nation's premier thought leaders, he is now able to impart a message of hope, of encouragement, of forgiveness, and of achievement. Along with Gain Wisdom, Guy organized Prison partnering with Christian community nationwide. It is at the forefront of prison reform. So you have an interesting story. But I would like to hear it from your words.
Okay. Well, yes. I was in the financial business, Kimberly, for 34 years. And when I started in the business, and I hate to date myself, but I'm going to, it's actually would be 50 years this year or this month. On Wednesday, the 27th of 1974 is actually when I got into the business. And the Dow Jones, which today is over 43,000, the Dow Jones started when I started, excuse me, was at 577. So in all of these years, it's really gone up a lot. But thank you again for allowing me to be here. Yeah, my story is a bit unique. In the respect that, I was a very successful, if we consider money anyway, a successful businessman. I worked in the business, as I say, many years, as well as being a stockbroker. I was also a registered investment advisor. And I point that out because as a registered investment advisor, I charged my clients a fee to deal with them as opposed to a commission, where especially at that time in the investment world, most brokers were charging a commission. I just felt that, a lot of brokers, and this is certainly no offense to anyone, but a lot of brokers don't have skin in the game. And what I mean by that is that if a person makes money in the market, the broker's happy, they validated their advice, and that's a great thing. But if the person loses money, it's really no skin off of the broker's nose. And again, that's what I say that they don't have really a vested interest. But as I would do seminars, and I did many many seminars over the years, and attracted actually, I was very blessed because I would get on average about 240 people that would come to my seminars, and I do them every other month roughly. And what I would tell those folks is that if you make money, I make money. If you don't make money, I don't. Because as I would charge my clients a fee every year to deal with me, the only time I would charge them is if that previous year I had made them more money than what they had made from the year before. So, I think it resonated with people because they said, this is a guy that, he wants to make me money because the more money I make as a client, the more money he's going to make as an advisor. And that's really how my business was. In 2005, we had a major shakeup in the investment world. What had happened is that it turned out, actually, it started in 2003, but it began to take shape and effect in 2005, 2006. And what had happened is that it was discovered that many of the big investment firms, like the mutual fund firms, who I am not going to mention because I do not want to get sued, but these folks were allowing people like me to trade after hours. And see, the stock market is open now between 9:30 in the morning and 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And when I would manage my clients' money, I specialized in 401ks and retirement accounts, but I managed all kinds of money. But the thing is that I had to have my trades in by quarter to four. And when I would move a client, and I would usually, when I moved one client, I would move everybody either into growth or money market or whatever. Well, what had happened is where I only had millions of dollars, and I don't mean to minimize, that was a lot of money, but the guys that had billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars, were being allowed to transact their business after hours, which was really unfair. It was unfair to guys like me, but more importantly, it was unfair to the investment community or the investors, excuse me. And what had happened is when it was discovered, where I had had unfettered access to trading money every day. And remember, there was no fees or commissions to do that. So as I was moving money back and forth, there was no fees or charges to the client. But the thing is that what I was doing correctly, getting my trades in before the close of business, and these folks were trading after hours, they were able to have an unfair advantage because they would know, by 8 o'clock the next that evening what was going on in the Asian markets the next day. Well, what happened is the business changed. Rules and regulations came into effect over the coming year, 2005, 2006, and they limited the amount of transactions that anybody could do within their 401ks or their retirement plans or just their non-qualified accounts. It didn't matter. So it really affected my business. I mean, I was not able to do my job anymore. I had offices nationwide. I had brokers that worked for me, and I didn't know what I was going to do. And I mean, it would have been easy. It would have been easy for me. I'm Italian, so that's why I use my hands a lot, I guess. So anyway, what I was going to say is that, it would have been easy for me just to lay a bunch of people off, keep a couple of secretaries, and do what I was doing. But I felt bad because I was going to have to let all of these people go. I had a place up in Maine. I love the ocean, and I was walking along one particular day along the beach. It was kind of an overcast day, and I was feeling pretty sorry for myself as to what am I going to do. And at this point, the stock market was still doing well, but the only thing that was holding it together was the real estate industry. I knew that at the time because I followed those things. And as we came to find out in 2008, of course, the real estate business caved in because of the mortgage crisis. But at this point, that wasn't the case. I mean, it was happening, but it hadn't come to the forefront yet. So as I was walking along the beach, I was thinking, what am I going to do? I was praying about this. I had this idea to start a real estate investment trust investing in waterfront property. And when I went back to my house, I looked on the computer because I thought maybe this is an alternative that I can put my clients into. Well, it turned out, Kimberly, that nobody had been doing this. And I thought, I'm a dummy. I couldn't have thought of this myself. But it turned out that nobody had ever done anything like this. So I put a company together, and making even a longer story a little bit shorter. I put a company together, and with the intention of opening up a real estate investment trust on waterfront property, and everybody loved the idea. Well, as we were building the company, and I wanted to keep my employees and not have to lay anybody off, because I really did think that this eventually would take off, we kept our company. And what we did was we started raising money for our firm because we weren't really making any money from our management fees any longer. So we raised money. And unfortunately, what happened is I came to find out too late. A couple of my brokers had lied to some of our investors and said that their money was being invested in real estate, which it wasn't. That their money was secured with property, which it wasn't. And they had contracts. The people had been given documents to verify that in case that was the case, that the case was you're not investing in anything. You're investing in our company. As soon as we get everything together, you'll get your money back. Well, unfortunately, the government found out, and not unfortunately, I'm glad the government found out, but unfortunately, when these folks were questioned, these three particular brokers, and I understand they lied to get themselves out of trouble and said that I instructed them to do that. And it was ironic because when the government came in, they executed a search warrant on my main office in Buffalo, and what's going on here? Well, they didn't really tell me anything. They took our documents, they took our computers and so on. And all of my employees in my Buffalo office were put into a conference room for the day while the government basically executed their search warrant. And the next day, when everybody came in, I said to them, I said, we're obviously under investigation. I said, whatever you do, tell the truth. I said, because we've got nothing to hide. Well, little did I know. I didn't find out for about another month that, in fact, what had been going on. But see, this is where, my mission began. Because we were speaking before we started here today, I'm also a business consultant. And when I talk to businesses, I tell them, look, I've been there. One of my biggest faults was, first of all, I trusted everybody. I had layers of management. I had a full-time attorney on staff. I had a chief operating officer. I had a compliance officer. I had a lot of people to make sure that what happened was never going to happen. But I didn't take direct control. I delegated out. And that's great because, it's important to do. But I don't care if you own a little company or a Fortune 500 company. If you are responsible for that firm, you better keep your eye on the ball. And maybe it might take a day that you just have to stay in your office and meet with your department heads or whatever and go through the books, go through everything. Because if you don't, you could end up in a problem like I did because I was completely blindsided. But, people have asked me, I've done, different interviews and such. People have said, well, do you think the government overreached or was the government wrong to investigate? Absolutely not. I tell them all. And I use the analogy about a captain on a ship. If the ship runs aground, it isn't the sailor that gets in trouble. It's the captain. And rightly so. He's in charge. The thing is that when the government came after me, they accused me of lying to clients. They accused me of instructing my employees to lie to clients, that I was stealing money from old people. And, that hurt because that was not true at all. And, the fact is, as I have said to people, had the government said to me, Mr. Gane, this is your company. These are your responsibilities. How could I deny that? I was responsible. But what bothered me is the narrative that the government decided to put on. But again, I never felt that the government was wrong to investigate. And in fact, as I came to find out what was going on, which is embarrassing, I should have known what was going on. But as I came to find out, they would have been remiss not coming after us. But in any event, I got a sentence of 13 years. I argued with the government for years that I didn't do this. As I said, as you mentioned, I had passed a couple of polygraph tests. But I still got indicted and I still ended up in prison. And my judge gave me a 13-year sentence. My kids were devastated. My wife was devastated. 13 years today rolls off of my tongue. But, when you walk through those gates and you realize that you're here for a long, long time. I went to prison in October, actually October 26th of 2011. And a few days later, I had a meet with my case manager. And when she was going through everything with me, she looked at the computer and said, well, now remember, this is 2011. She said, well, Mr. Gane, it looks like your out date is February the 23rd of 2023. I was like, oh my Lord, how can I? That's like today being told you go to prison and say, Mr. Jones, your out date is going to be February 23rd of 2037. I mean, imagine that. I mean, how are you going to do that time? And I had never been in trouble. I mean, I can't even remember when I had ever gotten a speeding ticket. So, the thing is, though, when everything first happened, Kimberly, which I don't think we've shared, I haven't shared with you, I ended up having a heart attack and I actually died. And when I was in the hospital, my son had rushed me to the emergency room. Um, they were putting an oxygen mask over my face after I had fallen asleep. And the nurse said something along the line of "Welcome back." I said, "What?" She said, "We lost you." She said, "We brought you back with the defibrillators." And I relate the story for this reason. When I went to prison back in October of 11, a couple of days later, you have to meet with all of these different people. Well, one of my stops was at the medical department. So when I was getting a physical and getting checked out and so on, the doctor said to me, Mr. Gane, he said, I seen your chart because I had my medical records sent to the prison. He said, I seen your chart. He said, and I see you had a heart attack. And I said, yeah, I did. And he said, well, I was a cardiologist. He said, I retired, but I do some contract work for the government. He says, he said, I see they brought you back with the defibrillators. I said, yeah. He said, they only work less than 2% of the time. I said, really? I didn't know that. And he said, yeah. He said, everybody thinks they work all the time. He said, they don't. And he said, and I'll never forget these words, Kimberly. He said, God has got a special plan for you. I said, yeah. I said, yeah, I got 13 years. He said, no. He said, God's got a special plan for you. And it was one of those things that, and I say this humbly, that this is not ego talking. When I heard those words at that time, it was like, forget it.
Mhm.
But as time went on in prison, I began to see that my mission was going to be a little bit different than really the path I had been on up until I got in trouble. I became a mentor in prison, especially to the white collar guys, because I could relate to them, they could relate to me. But one of the things I would say to people when they came in, because my nickname in prison was Gino. So if people go on my Facebook, for instance, it says Guy Gino Gane. Well, the reason I put Gino, it was because everybody that I was in prison with that wanted to stay friends, which a lot of them wanted to, could find me with that. The other thing is actually as I mentioned before, I'm Italian. My family name is Iovanishi, and my mother was actually born in Italy. But how they got Gane, we still don't know. But in any event, but the thing is that the guys would come to me and they would talk to me, and their hearts were broken like mine had been. And I got a reputation there. They used to call me Saint Gino, the patron saint of lost causes. And I know guys would say it teasingly, but I think they did mean that. But anyway, I would tell the guys, you have blessings that you don't realize. And they'd look at me like I had three heads. And I would say, now you know who your friends are. And now you know who really loves you. Because, like me, I had hundreds of friends, quote unquote friends. I had hundreds of friends that they couldn't get enough of me. Everybody was calling, let's get together, let's go to a football game, a hockey game, whatever it was, let's go to dinner. When everything happened to me, when my name was trashed in the paper that first day, the music stopped. I didn't get phone calls. I did from very few people. But I was more blessed than many, as I came to find out, because I did have a good couple of handfuls of friends that did stick by me, and people that did step up for me and say, "Look, I know Gane would never do something like this." But in any event, the thing is that these were just part of the life lessons that I was able to learn. And once I came out of prison, I've been home now for 4.5 years. Once I came home, I really thought, I want to do something for people, for their families, for people that not only are unjustly accused, but the families are the ones that suffer the most, because the majority of people that go to prison today are men, and many of them are the head of the household. Many spouses don't know how to balance a book. They hadn't been responsible to do any of those things. Doesn't mean anybody's ignorant. It's just that wasn't the responsibility. So what we've done is we put together an organization called Prison Ecology. Right now we're an LLC, but we are changing that to a nonprofit. But the thing is that what we do is we help people. I put a course together actually for people that are going to prison and what to expect. And it goes literally from A to Z. It's an ebook that we give to our clients that gives them everything from the moment they walk through that door on literally until the moment that they walk out of that door, how to behave, the things to ask, the things not to do. People can look on my on Google actually, and I have something that's on the site that's actually somehow Google put it on a separate heading on their page called the 50 10 Commandments of Prison. And there's 50 different things that people should look at and contemplate and really take the advice from of things to do and not to do when you go to prison. But anyway, we have a board of directors on at Prison Ecology from all over the country. We work with the Christian community nationwide. We help the families. We help walk them through things. We try to make their lives a little bit better, at least a little bit easier. And one of the things that bothers me is the fact that so many people, and like me, this happened to me. I was so desperate, and I can't go to prison. I can't leave my wife. I can't leave my kids. This can't be happening to me, that I ended up getting a prison consultant. Now, I'm not saying what I'm about to say, I'm not saying all prison consultants are like this, but it's been my experience from other people that I've spoken with as well that it seems very prevalent what I'm about to talk to in that line of work. What had happened is when the government came in, they froze all of my assets. They took my homes, everything. I had nothing left. And my wife and I literally went to soup kitchens. I mean, because it was my second marriage. She had smaller children, and we relied on the church for food. I couldn't work. I tried. I literally tried many different places to work, and I couldn't get a job. And once they would look me up, I mean, I don't blame them. I mean, Gane is a thief and a liar, and hurting all of these people. Who would want to hire somebody like that? So anyway, what had happened is as I was, putting this organization together, I wanted to make sure that we addressed the things that had happened to me and try to provide for those families. Because now my wife is left alone with her small children. And it was a pretty tough thing because again, the families are the ones that suffer. While I was in prison, my wife and I ended up eventually. She did divorce me. We're friends. I bless her. I have no problem with her at all, and I wish her the best. She did get remarried. I'm happy for her. But the thing is that I try to prevent that from happening to other people because a lot of women like my wife had nobody to turn to. She had nobody, when you're a veteran or your spouse is serving in the government or in the army, Marines, whatever, people want to help. People will come over and cut the lawn. People will paint the house. People will help with plumbing. People will help you to pay the mortgage, what to do and all of these things. When your spouse is left behind, they're treated as a pariah. The children are treated as a pariah. They've got nothing to do. They're innocent. But yet the public looks at them as they're tainted. And it's so sad. And we try to help in prison college, help people like that to overcome that. The thing, though, to what I wanted to mention before about prison consultants, because we do all this consulting, what had happened with me is even though the government had taken all of my money, this particular guy wanted $5,000, but he assured me he could maybe keep me out of prison, and if I went to prison, be very minimal time, get me close to home, and he was going to do this and he was going to do that, made all of these promises. And as a drowning man, I'm grasping at anything, but I don't have any money. Well, my family, my extended family, and some friends put $5,000 together. And believe me, Kimberly, when I tell you $5,000 at that point could have been 5 million. I mean, we could have bought food with that. But instead, we gave this guy $5,000. A couple of weeks later, I hadn't heard from him. So I called him up. I said, when are we going to get going? Well, Mr. Gane, what we're going to do is I'm going to organize a letter campaign and I want you to get all of the people that are going to do letters for you. I want them to send it to me and I'm going to send it to the judge. I said, well, I've already done that. As a matter of fact, the judge already has those. What else are we going to do? Well, you know what? It's pretty much all I can do. I mean, you've got a federal case and, they really can't. I said, wait a minute. What about all the things that you told me? Well, it's a federal case and we really can't. Well, my wife was livid. So she called him up and said, we want our money back. Well, I'm sorry. I don't give money back. There's no refunds. That was uncalled for because you took advantage of somebody who was really in dire straits. But our organization, which is the reason I brought this up, Kimberly, our organization does not charge you. Our funding comes from the Christian community. So if somebody comes to us, your viewers know someone, if your viewers, maybe a family member is involved in something like this, or they know somebody, a loved one, or whatever, have them look us up, prisoncology.com, because we do not charge. I do not want to happen to someone else that would happen to me. Their lives are hard enough at that point. And the funny thing is that the government says, this is government statistics, 3 to 5% of the people that are in prison are in fact innocent. But there's other statistics, which frankly I look at more, that it's between 15 and 20% of the people that are in the nation's prisons are in fact innocent. Now, when it doesn't affect us, when it's not us, well, it's just numbers. These are real people that are involved. These are real flesh and blood people that have flesh and blood children, that have spouses, that have families, that have a reputation that is destroyed. But what I decided all of those years, I put my mind to work, which was the only thing I could still control. And I wrote books while I was in prison. I wrote two books. I've got three published now, those two and another one that I published since I'm working on another one right now. But I wrote these books. I put this course together. I mentored people. I tried to help with their GED and these type of things while I was in prison because I really wanted to be a help to other people. And I felt that, for some reason, I had been given a bag of lemons and I just wanted to make lemonade. And I still have been trying to do that. And the thing is that this is not poor me, and I know I've spoken a lot here right now, but this is not about how gee, they did me wrong. No, because all of us, every single one of us, and I don't care if you've got $200 million, if you've got $2 to rub your to call your own to rub together. We all have difficulties in our lives. We all have setbacks. But what we have to do, and what I've discovered through my own experiences, is you take the reversals that you have in life and you make them into a positive. And I know it sounds cute and a little cliche, well, make everything better, but if you really put your mind to it, you can. And is it easy? No, it's not. Nothing that's worthwhile really is easy. But the thing is that if you can lighten somebody else's path, if you can open a door for someone, if you can pay for somebody's hamburger, if somebody's searching in their pocket for change so they can buy a coffee at the donut shop, the feeling that you'll get by helping someone is immense. I mean, when you're able to do that, I tell, when I'm speaking in a group, I tell people at the beginning, I absolutely have the way to make you happy. And some of them look at me like I'm nuts. But I said, by the end of my time here tonight, I will tell you how I can absolutely guarantee to show you how to be happy. And happiness, and I promise this is the way. So anybody that's watching today, I promise you this is the way. Help someone else. Do something nice for someone. You will feel like $1 million. And I don't care how miserable your day is going, but you'll feel good because you actually did something nice for someone else. And so, these are the lessons that I learned that I've tried to make people's lives a bit better with what I went through. And I think where I am right now, it's certainly as a broker in my business, I was making a lot of money. And I know we talked at the top of the show that, about being successful. A lot of people equate having a lot of money to being successful. And certainly, God wills us to have money in our lives and, help other people with it and so on. He doesn't say, you all should be broke. Yeah, that's not where the kingdom of heaven is. But the thing is that, in the commandments, don't put another God before me. Well, how many people today look at their money as their God? I mean, I know people like that. I'm sure you do too. Money to them is everything. And I tell you, Kimberly, I was making a half a million, actually over that per year. But the thing is that it isn't that it bought me happiness, but it gave me the opportunity to do things for people even back then. But my point is that, if you're able to share your experiences with other people and positively influence their lives in some way, that's success. And when I talk to people one-on-one, because I also do coaching, I tell them that, when we're taking our last breaths, if we're fortunate enough to be able to do that at the end, I've never found anybody that has even told me this. I certainly have been around some folks that, were breathing their last, but nobody has ever said, hey, what did the stock market do today? How much is my balance in my account? That's not what's important. What's important is love. No matter what, it's love that lasts. It's love that allows people to remember you long after you're gone. It's love that truly does make this world go around. And where we are in our country right now, in my opinion, is a real lack of love. I mean, we have been divided, and I know I'm not speaking out of turn. We have been divided for so long. And now, as we're doing this, the elections are over and we have a new president. The thing is that we have to go on. And whether you were, for the current gentleman or not, it doesn't matter. What matters is to make the best of if you consider it a bad situation, or to make it even greater if you think it's a great situation. But the thing is that it's time to heal. It's truly time to love one another because you know, when we're driving down the street and people get in an argument because somebody put their car in front of them, or they're taking too long, and people are honking their horns, what is that going to do except inflame someone else?
Mm.
And it doesn't matter because is it going to get you to your destination, what, 30 seconds sooner? Put things into perspective. And I was talking to my oldest son today, and we were talking about patience. And I said, his name is Guy as well. I said, Guy, I said, it's just funny because in prison, I learned to have patience. You have to wait for everything, and sometimes a lot longer than you hope. But when I'm going down the road right now, people want to come in on the side, let them go. If people are getting off an exit, slow down and let them get on the road. Or somebody wants to cut in front of you, no problem, because I don't want somebody to steal my joy. And I certainly don't want to have somebody steal my joy because they want to cut in front of me. Hey, God bless you. That's not a problem. The other thing is, Kimberly, I found that when you hear a siren, an ambulance, say a little prayer. Somebody's in a distress at that moment. And the thing is, when I hear that, I try to remember that. I'm not going to say remember it all the time because I don't, but I try to. And, I realize that somebody is having a problem, sending them a blessing, send the family a blessing, because God knows they need it at that moment. Oh, let me
Exactly.
get off my soapbox. Sorry about that.
Yeah. I mean, I was actually taught that since a little child to, if you hear a siren, to pray for, the person in the family or whatever's
Right.
going on.
Hmm.
And I haven't witnessed this, but I've heard people say they actually, if they were in that situation or even in the vicinity, they've seen like light around like the
Really.
ambulances and stuff because there's a lot of people sending
That are
prayers. We
praying.
don't know who it is, but we're all,
Right.
but all been taught to send those prayers and
That's
they're
so
powerful.
beautiful. Yeah, they really are. They really are. I when I talk to clients, and I tell people that my natural market is people in sales because I was in sales all my life. Even though stockbrokers have this kind of mystique, at the end of the day, we're all salespeople. But I think that what's important to realize is that you can't let yourself get down. Let me rephrase that. You can't allow yourself to stay down all the time. Especially in the sales business, and I don't care if you're selling vacuum cleaners or stocks or, appliances, it doesn't matter. The thing is that, we're going to have people that love what we have, the product that we have, and we're going to have people that really aren't interested. And when you have a period of people that aren't interested in what you have to offer, it gets you down. And that happened to me in my career many, many times. And I would sit back and contemplate. I'd leave the office, and this was especially true at the beginning of my career. And I was like, Lord, do you want me to end this? I mean, what am I going to do? I've got mortgages, I've got children. What am I going to do? But the thing is that what I've come to find is that you can't give up. And again, I feel in a way that I don't want to say an expert in that, but kind of have experience with not giving up, because it's easy to say, you know, you can't do this, or you shouldn't do that, or you have to do it this way. Well, what do you have? What's your basis for that? I mean, why are you saying that to me? I use the analogy about, taking flying lessons. If you were going to take flying lessons, you have a choice to fly with the person that has been flying for 30 years and he's, seen a lot, or you can go to the guy who builds the planes, knows exactly what is in there, what the oil levels are, everything. He can build it from the tail to the front. But who would you rather take lessons from? The guy that's been there, the guy that's done that before. And really, that's where I think my strength is that I've been through an awful lot, and I really feel that God has given me an opportunity to pass that knowledge along. And you know, I really take a great deal of satisfaction in that. But I am the person that doesn't give up. And people asked me when I came home, what did I think was going on with the stock market? Well, ironically, the first couple of years that I was in prison, I really didn't keep track of much. But one day, about halfway through my time there, my case manager came to me. I had been transferred to a couple of different prisons, and actually wrote on Con Air. If anybody ever seen that movie Con Air, it's nothing like that, by the way. So, but anyway, the place that I ended up staying at the end, the case manager came to me and he said, "Guy, what am I going to do? I'm losing money in my account." I said, "Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't have a computer. I don't know." He brought me into his office and asked me to look at his account, put me behind his computer, and long story short, I ended up, which I say now because most of these guys are retired, so nobody will get in trouble. But I ended up managing 8 of the staff's retirement accounts. So if anybody had seen that movie, The Shawshank Redemption, where he was, helping do the accounting, I had to laugh because that kind of the same thing happened. But the thing is that when I came home, people asked me what do you think is going on with the market and what should I do? And I started praying about this, and I can't be in the business anymore. My license was taken from me, unfortunately. And I thought, well, I'll really start paying attention. So for about a year, I really acclimated myself again. And, doing this for so many years was part of who I am. So I decided back in 2022, I kept hearing you should do a newsletter. And I was hearing that inner voice, which I always attribute to the Holy Spirit. But, I kept hearing this voice, you should do this, you should do this. And I don't know if I want to do this. And I remember that one particular week, I went down, there was a pond by where I lived. And I would go down there just to kind of sit and pray, think about things. And I remember I sat on the bench that particular day and I said, Lord, what should I do? Should I do this? And yes, you should. So I did. That afternoon, I went home and I put together a very rudimentary market alert or market update. And I started it in August of 2022. And the reason I really ended up doing is that I was thinking about those folks that have a 401k because nobody ever tells them the best place to put their money. Nobody really pays attention to them. They can't. Brokers cannot deal with those accounts because they're not their accounts. So, a lot of people, when they open up a 401k, they'll put the money into, usually when they first, go to the new company that they're with, or if the company just started it, they'll look at a group of names, mutual fund names. They don't know what a mutual fund is, but they see all of these names and, they'll pick what they sounds like a nice name. Well, that's not a good way to pick investments. But there's over, I think I just read this the other day, 96 million people in the United States have a 401k. And there is, I think, almost $1 trillion in 401k money right now. But the thing is that what I do is I put a market update together on a weekly basis. And I focused on those folks that don't have anybody to help them, the 401k market. It's very, very affordable. It's $200 a year. And, the people that have followed the advice made that up really within a month. But the thing is that every week I give a synopsis of what happened with the market the previous week and what we expect to happen in the coming week. And I also give them advice as to where their money should be at any particular time. I also do midweek market alerts, meaning that if something changes during the week, we email that information to them. They should move it from here to there or whatever the case is. That website, by the way, is marketwatch.gainwisdom.com. It's marketwatch.gainwisdom.com. But I also put together I wrote a book, as I mentioned earlier. I published it last year along with the other two that have already been out. And it's called Managed Money: An Avenue to Wealth. It's an ebook. It's available on Amazon. But if somebody would like, today, if when they're listening to this, if they'd like to write to me, they can write to me at guy@gainwisdom.com, guy@gainwisdom.com, and I'll send them the book for free. But if somebody decides that they'd like to buy one of my other books, anytime that's done through a podcast that I do, I donate money back to the hostess. So in whatever way, you feel best to use that money, I send back 20%. So just so you know. But as I say, my whole thing is to pass things along. And, I don't know if you had ever gotten the chance, Kimberly, to watch the movie Pay It Forward. Did you ever see that movie? And the reason,
But I've
yeah,
heard of it.
yeah, the reason I ask you is I actually seen it while I was in prison, and I had heard about it too, and I had never seen it. And what the whole premise was is that this little boy was given an assignment in class, and to help, to do something that's going to affect other people. Of course, the kids were talking about, all of these different things. Well, this little boy decided that what he would do is he would help three people with whatever it was. And the whole idea was those three people that he helped, each one of them had to help three people. And each one of those people had to help three people. And the whole thing about paying it forward. And it was such a beautiful idea that I say the same thing that, help other people, do things for other people, because the enrichment that you'll get from your life is a multitude. It really, really is.
Beautiful. Well, now I have a personal question for you.
Mhm.
What gives you the most happiness and fulfillment in your life at this point?
Honestly, it is the fact that I'm able to help other people. And it really is. I know, again, it sounds hokey but it's not. It's what personally gives me pleasure is that let me, if I could say this, respect is a big thing. In prison, respect, as you probably heard, as most people have heard, is like that's it. That's the currency in prison. And if you don't show respect in prison, you pay the price. You may not like the person. And there was a lot of people there that I really didn't care for because of their behavior. I wasn't judging them. I just watched what they were doing. But I always respected people. I respected their privacy. I respected their time. But when you respect somebody, you hope to get that back. And a few years back, I had someone totally disrespect a friend of mine and I together. And I would never lash out at anybody first. I won't do that. But when somebody does that purposely to me or to us, I do address it, and I address it pretty firmly. And I did with this gentleman. And the guy that I was with after the conversation ended, kind of reprimanded me. Well, you shouldn't do that. And I said, I said, if I were to let that go, the 14 years that I had gone through this whole nightmare at that point, I said, will have been for nothing. I said, that's part of my DNA now. I will always be kind. I will always be nice to people. And even if somebody gets a little smart, I'd still let it go. But there's a line. And if you allow, and I say it not to be mean, but Kimberly, if you allow somebody to go over that line, they begin to take advantage of you. And
Mhm.
when they take advantage of you, they think they can get away with things with you. And now they don't have any again, we'll use that word respect. And I would see that when somebody, when somebody would come to prison and I would tell them, look, if somebody comes at you, and yes, I mean it that way, you've got to defend yourself. I said, because if you don't, what's going to happen is you're going to be a marked man for the rest of your life in that prison. And yes, you may get beaten up. If you got a guy coming at you that's 6'6" and 325 pounds of all muscle, you ain't, I'm 6 foot tall and I'm a pretty big guy, but I'm going to get beaten up by a guy like that. But you have to take, fortunately, that did not happen. But if it does, you have to take that. You have to defend yourself because what happens is all around the yard, it becomes known that you'll back down and you become a victim. And you do not want to be in prison and be a victim, as you can imagine. So when somebody disrespects you in life, you have to show them that they can't get away with that. It might be a word back to them, it might be a sentence back to them. Don't lose your cool. Don't start screaming because you lose your emotions when you do that. But be firm and let them know that they cannot get away with that. But to answer your question, my biggest joy comes from helping other people and passing along knowledge to other people. And I feel blessed to be in a position to, again, speak from experience with that.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast and for all
Well, thank
your
you for having me.
wisdom and insight. Yeah. So I have one last question before we finish.
Sure.
What is your best advice on living an incredible, amazing life?
My best advice really is to help other people. We're coming up to the holidays now, and I'm trying to think where I think I put it on LinkedIn last year, and I'll do it again this year actually. I try to post every day. I haven't been really concise with that, or consistent, excuse me, with that over the last few months because I've really been busy. But I try to post every day, every business day. And last year, and actually the year before, now that I think about it, just before Christmas, I gave an idea to people. and I'll pass this on to your viewers and listeners. You might only have a couple of dollars to spare, or maybe God has blessed you and you have a lot more to spare. Go to the grocery store, maybe like the beginning of December, maybe even before Thanksgiving, but go to the grocery store. Maybe talk to one or two of the cashiers and just say, I'm here. I'm going to stand over here in the corner, or I'm going to be over here in in the front of the store. And if somebody's having a problem with their groceries to pay, just look at me and let me come over there and pay for the groceries. And I don't care if it's $200 or if it's $20 or if it's $2. The thing is that I remember, I'm not going to get emotional about this, but I remember not being able to have anything. My wife and I were going to soup kitchens, as I mentioned. And again, going back, Kimberly, when I had said that my wife and I, broke up while I was in prison, I cannot dislike this person. She stuck with me literally through thick and thin. And, you know, somebody else would have said, I don't know what I'm doing with you. Get out of here. You're this, you're that. And that, I mean, this was the girl that was going to the churches and asking for help. But I remember when we were getting food, uh, from the churches or the pantries, we would bring these bags of food home, a lot of canned goods, and I would put them away. I wasn't working, and I would put them away, and I would look at the expiration dates, and it was really sad because a lot of the expiration dates were like 2, 3 years before,
Mhm.
and I thought, I know that you want to clean out your cupboard, but you know, but my point, I don't want to dwell on that, but my point was every once in a while the grocery store gift cards with $100 or $200. I mean, $200. I mean, I remember when everything was normal. I go to the grocery store and that was, there was a grocery bill per week, a lot more sometimes. But when we would get a gift card, it was like, oh my Lord, thank you. We could get things that we just couldn't do. We could get brand name stuff that we couldn't do. I'm sorry, I don't want to get emotional, but I never forgot that. And I want to be able to help other people that they don't have to go through what I went through. But I don't take that as a negative. I take it as a blessing to know, to actually feel what somebody else is going through when things aren't going well for them. So I kind of wrap up and just say it that way. It's coming up to the holidays. If you have the money and if you have the inclination, I promise you're going to make a difference in somebody's life. I promise.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much, Guy.
Thank you for having me. I truly, truly appreciate it.
We'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you so much. God bless.